Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the therapy hour. Good. Great to see you all. Hello. How are you all doing? Thank you for joining me. Yes, you are. Now, how do we do this pen thing? To pen something? No, I'm going to have to learn it for another day. All right. How are you all doing? It's great to see you. For those that don't know, my name is Nathaniel Oke, and I am a psychotherapist. And today I'm doing, I believe, my sixth live. I've been doing it for the last 6 weeks now. Time flies when you're talking a lot. Today's topic is going to be a continuation of last week's topic, which is looking at domestic abuse, the elephant in the room for a lot of communities, my community, our universal community. Domestic abuse, the elephant in the room being, do we talk about it? Do we pretend it doesn't exist? Do we blame ourselves? Do we blame others? Today I'm going to be continuing talking about it from a psychotherapeutic point of view. And if you were here last week, thank you for joining me for the therapy hour. I got a lot of feedback, and when I say a lot, it touched me, the amount of feedback I received. It also let me know that there's a need for this conversation to be had. There's a need to explore this. There's a need to actually be heard. There's a need to find a solution, to find a better way of dealing with it. And I'll come, as always, from my position. I will come always from my perspective, my professional perspective, and my experience in working directly in this field, working directly as a psychotherapist. So thank you once again for joining me. Let's start off by, I'm going to recap on what we spoke about last week. So those ones that weren't here last week, hopefully today will be a way for me to summarize a little bit of what I touched on last week. And for today, I want to specifically explore and touch on the therapy aspect of what I do, the therapy aspect on how to actually change learned behavior. One of the questions I received last week was genuine in, do you think people can change their behavior? Do you think people can change from being abusive? Now, the narrative and the general narrative is, if he does it once, he'll continue doing it. The narrative is, if he does it, leave him, he's no good, throw him away. I'm not here to cast judgment on that narrative. I'm here to speak from my professional experience and in working with the people that perpetrate domestic abuse. And my genuine belief, based on experience, is that people can change their behavior. The behavior I exhibited 10, 20 years ago, thankfully, is not the behavior I exhibit today. I've learned to express myself better, to communicate better, to appreciate other people. I've learned to change my behaviors over the years on so many other things. And if I can change my behavior, if you can change your behavior on different things, sometimes we're procrastinate, sometimes we're sharp with our words, sometimes we're impatient. But over the years, we've learned to change those behaviors. So for a perpetrator of domestic abuse, I definitely believe, based on fact, based on data, based on the professional experience, that this can also be changed. So for today, what I want to explore is bring you into the therapy room. This is the therapy hour after all, but bring you in to what it must feel like. Just be a fly on the wall to look at what it must feel like whilst I am dealing with clients, whilst I am working with clients, perpetrators of domestic abuse sitting across from me, and how do I work with them therapeutically to affect change. All right. So first of all, I'll give you a little background again. Apologies for those that have heard this before, that have been here since last week, the week before. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, because sometimes I believe from what I see online, a lot of people are talking about certain topics. And for me, I like to understand what is their perspective. I want to understand what qualifications they have. I want to understand where they're coming from to talk on such a topic. So for me, I'm not talking as Nathaniel, telling you what I think, how I'm feeling. I'm talking to you from a position as a psychotherapist for the last 12 years. And on this topic specifically, I'm talking from a position of working within this field, working with perpetrators of domestic abuse also for the last 12 years. That is where I'm talking from. So this is not a personal opinion or a personal live. This is a professional one. And I think it's useful. And the comments I received last week lets me know that it's useful to hear it from this perspective. I want to announce, I mentioned it last week and 2 weeks ago when I started talking about this topic, that my company, Talking Therapy Clinic, has introduced a perpetrator protection prevention program. And the program is called the Halcyon Project. That's Halcyon with Halcyon. And the Halcyon Project is about working with perpetrators of domestic abuse, male or female, in looking at how they can change their behavior by working in a therapeutic environment. So the company, Talking Therapy Clinic, has just introduced and developed that program based on the last 12 years of me working in the field, of me writing in the field, and of me talking in the field. So the program has been created to work with perpetrators of domestic abuse on how they can change their behavior from a therapeutic point of view. So if you do know anyone, or you would like to signpost anyone to that, direct them to the website, tell them to get in contact, and we are now opening that program up for people that want to change their abusive behavior. That is the first step. You acknowledge that you have behaved in an abusive way and you want to change that behavior. Okay? So check out the website, direct people there. If you know friends, if you've got a partner that you would like to seek help in that behavior, but you feel that there's no help out there, there is. If you've got a partner out there that you feel, I want for this to work, I want to help, how can I help? All I can say is the only way you can help is direct him or her to seek help independent of you. If you've been following me, you will know that I've always said this before, that it is not the survivor's fault for another person's behavior. It is not the survivor's fault for somebody else behaving abusively towards you. So the best way for you to help that person is to direct them to somewhere where they can seek help for themselves. And if they are coming back into the home, it's for you to direct them to where they can seek help and for them to take that action. And only then can the healing begin. And only then can the work begin. I can see a comment there say, can you repeat the website again? Sorry if I spoke too quickly. The website is talkingtherapyclinic.co.uk. I see one. Yes, thank you very much, Ronke. It's pinned there. I don't know how to do the pinning thing where you pin at the bottom of things, but don't worry, I'm going to be researching it. I've been researching for the last 3 weeks. That doesn't bode well, does it? But yes, so that is the website. And the program is called the Halcyon Program. The waiting list is open right now, in which people can refer themselves. What I would say is that I've had a lot of comments from last week's session where people are sending me messages saying, my partner is abusive, but he doesn't acknowledge he is. My partner is abusive, but is blaming me for it. I've had situations where people have messaged me from last week's session. How can I get my partner to acknowledge or recognize that he is abusive? Now, my response to everyone else in that is, he has to come to that position where he acknowledges that he's abusive. Because we can drag him to that well, we can drag him to that lake, but he's not going to drink. And in my experience, all the clients I have, I can tell you from the first session, whether they were dragged there or they came there free-willed. Now, some people come there dragged there by their partner, or an ultimatum has been issued. And the first session is full of denial. The first session is full of blame and misdirection. So in my experience, I think I have acquired the knowledge to know how to deal with that. However, when you are living with someone that is exhibiting that behavior, it's very difficult. Because then the manipulation comes in, the controlling comes in, the gaslighting comes in, where all of a sudden, without you realizing it, you start doubting yourself that, hold on a minute, maybe he's not abusive. Maybe I'm the one that's been a little bit sensitive. Okay, maybe he's got a point. So if you direct him to the website, we'll be able to speak. And if he wants a consultation, we'll book a consultation to join the program. Okay? And the program consists of 15 one-to-one sessions and followed by 10 group sessions. So more information will be on the website shortly. So just direct them to the website and we can start having a dialogue. So for today, good question, Deja. What can you do to influence the realization? What I will say is, in my experience, a lot of people deny initially. In my experience, a lot of people blame initially or belittle initially, downplay initially. What can you do to influence this realization? Tell your truth. This is how I'm experiencing you. This is how I feel after your behavior, after your treatment. I am hurting because of the way that you treat me. I don't want this. I love you. I don't love the way you treat me. I need you to heal. I need you to change your behavior. And then it comes to a point where you may have to say to this person, I cannot continue in this space as things are. I need you to seek help to change your behavior. And I know of a lot of people that have come to the initial consultation and they've sat across from me and they said, Nathaniel, my wife is telling me that I am abusive, that I am this, that I am that. I'm not. Can you write something to tell her that I'm not? And then what I do in the initial consultation is I go through a process of asking certain questions. And the questions is looking at, in what way do you behave towards your partner? Let me hear the words you use, the context in which you use it, your tone. And at the end of that 1 hour consultation, my job is to reflect what I'm seeing. Bearing in mind that they do come in trying to prove that they're not abusive. And my job is to reflect back what I see. And if you were listening last week, if you were joining me last week, you recognize that manipulation is used a lot. And I am not immune to that. I also have been manipulated by clients. I can see when they are manipulating me by some of the things they are saying, by the way that they are directing me to their partner's behavior. Totally ignoring their behavior. So my job is not to judge the partner. My job is to look at you and your behavior, what you are exhibiting. And I'm going to say to you straight, when you do say this, it is abusive. I'm not your partner. I have no vested interest in this. So I'm neutral. And I will say to you, your behavior is abusive. And I will give you an example of how it can be abusive. And I will ask you questions and you will answer those questions. And at the end of it, most of my clients, at the end of the initial consultation, initial assessment, have joined to continue working with me. And sometimes it may take somebody else away from their home to put a mirror to them for them to truly see it. So thanks for that question, Deja. The guy, the woman will have to make that decision. The perpetrators of that behavior will have to make that decision. We can nudge them in that direction, send them my way. Initial assessment, we will be able to determine within that session. And it's up to that person to take that on board, whether to start the program or not. All right? So, how do we work therapeutically? How do I work therapeutically on this program in dealing with clients with abusive behavior? The first thing we need to do, and for me to accept anyone, for the counselors in my company to accept anyone on this program, the client has to acknowledge and accept that they are behaving abusively. In order for them to do so, they're coming to us, we do an initial assessment. And the initial assessment is asking questions. We send out a questionnaire prior to the initial assessment. And the questionnaire is asking many questions regarding their age, their life, their profession, their relationship, and the children. Are they living together or not? But also looking at the mental health, the history of physical health, or certain other issues. But there has to be within that an acknowledgement that yes, I'm being abusive. Yes, I have been abusive. And in most of my clients, they're sent by the courts, right? The family court, because social services have deemed that the perpetrator should leave the family home. So in some cases, most of my clients will come in not self-referred, but dragged either by the courts, by social services, by the ultimatum from the partner, leave the house, you're not coming back here until you've sorted yourself out. So I get either referred by other agencies, self-referred, or ultimatum, I have no choice, I've been sent here, I have to do something, or else I'm not going to be able to see my children. Now, that is a big carrot. For some people, it's the stick, not the carrot. All right? So the initial assessment, what we do is acknowledging why you're here, and what the perpetrator, the client, will do is look at his behavior within that. We have a list of abusive behaviors that we'll go through. We're not only talking about physical, we're talking about sexual, we're talking about coercive, we're talking about emotional, controlling, financial, all spectrum of abusive behavior. Last week I touched on it a little bit. Today I'll touch on it a little bit more. Financial, very rarely spoken about, but it exists. The over-reliance on somebody out of love, but in fact is a way of ownership. Emotional abuse, ignoring, silent treatment, cold shoulder, until the person does what you want them to do. Controlling behavior, not hitting you, but if you don't do what I want you to do, where are you going to go? Who's going to love you? Who's going to want you? You've got 2 kids. Who's going to want you? Right? Coercive behavior. I really need this to happen. If you love me, you will make this happen. Because I know there are a lot of people out there that would do it for me. So what do you say? But I don't feel comfortable doing it. Then I guess your love comes at a price. Those are the different ways in which people can be abusive. The physical gets the spotlight. The physical gets the headlines. But all the other types of abusive behavior permeating through the relationship, through the landscape, is also as damaging. Because it follows you everywhere you go. In your thoughts, in your feelings, in the way you look at yourself or feel about yourself. So that's how powerful abusive behavior can be in controlling another human being, in determining how another human being feels about themselves. That is the most powerful thing for me in this. That another person can dictate how you feel about yourself. negatively. But also, I want you to just recognize one thing here. Although another person can make you feel, can sometimes determine how you feel about yourself negatively, there's an element of that that shows itself as positive. I feel so beautiful around him. It makes me feel so beautiful. So the power to affect your mood, your feelings, the way you think is there. So when he or she determines that I don't like what you're wearing, that power then comes in, okay, why you dressed like that? That power now, where it looked once positive, is now determining how you feel about yourself. It's now affecting you negatively. So for me, there was a question I asked last week. How do you determine who's abusive? Who's got the power? And I'm not talking about physical strength here. I'm talking about who's got the power within that dynamic. Who's using it deliberately, consciously, to affect another person, to coerce another person into a certain behavior. Those are the things that we're talking about. So now, let's go into the therapy. If some of the things we're talking about evokes emotion, that's the whole point of this. I'm not doing this for the sake of it. I'm not doing it because I'm bored. I'm doing this because I believe this topic or therapy in general needs to be available. And we need, we need to utilize it to heal from wounds that we've ignored, from wounds that we may not even acknowledge, but it shows its head from time to time. That is why we're here. This is the therapy hour, provided a platform for us to talk about topics like this. So how do I, as a psychotherapist, deal with a perpetrator of domestic abuse? The elephant in the room. Let's talk about it. The first thing we do is we do an initial assessment. And when I say we, I'm talking about my company, Talking Therapy Clinic, and the project that we've just announced, which is Perpetrator Awareness Program. How do we treat someone from a psychotherapeutic point of view to change their behavior? So we do an initial assessment, and that initial assessment starts with a questionnaire. They sit in front of me, across from me, similar to how you are right now, maybe not with a phone in hand, but similar to this. And we go through the questionnaire and we ask certain questions to determine their behavior, to determine their household and their relationships. And at the end of that, we ask questions regarding how they behave, how they talk, how they feel, what their thinking process is, what are their opinions of their own behavior, and if they are aware of the effect of their behavior. Now, in that initial assessment, awareness is usually very limited. Awareness will come across something like this. She tells me that she feels angry, upset, sad, scared, but I don't even understand why she's scared. If you see my wife or my girlfriend, she's fierce, she's strong. She can't be scared of me. She's independent. She can't be scared of me. No, she's not scared of me. No, she's not scared of me. And then I ask the question, as she told you, she's scared of you when you behave a certain way. Yeah, but how can she be scared of me? She gives as good as she gets. Now, that is a gateway for us to look at perception and reality. Your perception is she's strong, she's fierce, she speaks up for herself, or as some of my clients say, she talks back. Imagine that. That's the gateway for us to look at. Your perception may be that she's strong, she's fierce, and everything else. But this strong, fierce person is telling you they're hurt by your behavior. They're scared of you. They're exhibiting behavior that shows that they're fearful of you. They cower. They walk on eggshells at times. Or in some cases, they talk back. Just because they're talking back doesn't mean they're not scared of you. So in the initial assessment, we go through that. And usually the clients come back to start the program. One of the things I look for in a client, because this is a question I was asked me a couple of weeks ago. What are your type of favorite clients in a situation like this, in a perpetrator program? And my answer is usually somebody that has got something to lose. Because if you've got something to lose, if they feel they've got something to lose, it determines their motivation. Most of the clients I have, their motivation is not genuinely to change their behavior initially. Initially, it is, I don't want to lose this woman. I don't want to lose my kids. That is their motivation. Whatever the motivation is, I don't care initially, because my thing is to get you in and start the work. Because I know the motivation will start changing. As soon as you start acknowledging and you feel it's okay for you to see yourself as the bad guy, to see yourself in that behavior and actually accept that, yes, I am abusive. Yes, I have hurt the people I love the most. Then the motivation then starts changing on, I don't want to be that person that does that. I don't want to be that person that hurts my wife or the kids that I love to death. I don't want to be that person that's making them cry, that's making them scared for their lives even. I don't want to be that person, and the motivation changes. Then the program itself starts, because we do not accept anyone on the program that does not do that initial first thing, which is, I acknowledge that my behavior is abusive. And the second thing we do not compromise on, I am willing to work to change my behavior. So those two things are the things that are prerequisite before you can be accepted on the program. I acknowledge that my behavior is abusive, and I'm willing to do something to change it. And as soon as we get that from our clients, the work starts. All right, the work starts. Now, got a question here. If one person in the relationship uses children as leverage, this is abusive too, right? Yeah, that is abusive, because we're looking at power, how I can use the power of the children, me having the children, to affect this other person's behavior. And a lot of the times, the men use, and I say use deliberately, use that fact. It may be a fact that the partner is saying you can't see the kids. And they use that as a distraction from their own behavior. Why is your partner that is telling you you are abusive, that is telling you you're hurting, that is telling you your behavior is scaring her and the children, why is this person now telling you you can't see the children? Let's look at that behavior. I am not stating that someone that uses the kids as leverage is okay. No, I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying let's address your behavior. The behavior that's brought you to sit across from me. Let's address that. Now, a lot of the clients, like I said last week, a question was asked last week, and I can see another question touching on it perfectly as well. How do you approach someone that is unaware that they have abusive behaviors or traits? Take a mirror. Now, my job as a psychotherapist is, as all psychotherapists, our job is to put a mirror to our clients so they can see themselves in a way that they may not have seen themselves before. And by seeing that and acknowledging that, the real work starts. So in answer to your question, Dollar, how do you make someone aware of it. You can't drag them to the well. They're not going to drink. They're not ready. Nope, nope, I don't do that. What? She did this. Oh, you didn't even know. She said this. She said that. Let's look at that person's behavior and list not only the behavior, but also the effect of that behavior on the other person. In my experience, as soon as you touch on effects, that's where the light bulb starts going off. There's denial, denial, denial. But if you look in and you point the gaze to this person and say, this is how she's feeling. This is how I'm feeling. This is how I'm scared of you. By showing them themselves in that regards. Just looking at the behavior and the effects. No judgment. Because what I've noticed is with judgment, people run back behind the barricades and the wrong and strong element comes out. No. It's her. She's a, you know how women are. You know how they get. She's just, yeah. Now imagine that I'm sitting across a client and they're trying to collude. They're trying to get me to collude. They say, you know how women get. And my response usually is, I haven't met all the women in the world, so I'm not fully aware of how women, universal women, get. So tell me, how do you experience women? And by rephrasing that narrative, the person can start talking about, I experience her as being moany, bossy, or she doesn't listen. Now, when you mean she doesn't listen, what do you mean? Well, I tell her to do something and she doesn't do it. Okay. So what I'm hearing is not that she doesn't listen, but she's not doing what you are telling her to do. Yeah. Okay. And how does that make you feel when you tell her to do something and she doesn't do it? Now, this passage, I'm going to do it exactly like I do in sessions because I want to take you on a journey on how we get to realization. She doesn't do what I'm telling her to do. Okay. And how does that make you feel? The feel is very important because the feeling is usually pushed aside and is just jumped over to the action. I just lost it. So by introducing the feelings into this is so important because that is where we can connect with one another. We can connect with one another in the feels. So in answer to your question, Dollar, the next question I ask them is, how does that make you feel when she doesn't do what you tell her to do? Like she doesn't respect me. Like she doesn't care. She's not taking me seriously. What kind of a man will I be if my woman is not doing what I'm telling her to do? She doesn't respect me. And within that passage of dialogue, I hope you can see what I can see within that is the understanding of what a relationship is. The understanding of what a dynamic of a relationship is a little skewed right there. Your understanding of that relationship is, as the man, my woman should do what I tell her to do. And if she doesn't, it means I am not man enough to control my woman. I told her not to go out wearing that, and she did. She has no respect for me. I told her not to do that, and she did. She has no respect for me. Now, within that, she's doing something not to deliberately upset or abuse you. She's doing something as an independent person of thought, is making a decision for herself. So it's about introducing that within that moment. So in that session, the dialogue goes along the same lines I've just stated. And what I'm doing as a psychotherapist within that is highlighting a skewed way of thinking. or highlighting how that person sees the world, and importantly, how they see themselves. So, in answer to your question, Dollar, how can you get someone that's unaware? Just show them how you are feeling. Show them the effects of your specific behavior to me. It's not about I'm in my feelings. It's not about I'm being sensitive. You shouting at me scares me. You standing over me scares me. You ignoring me, ignoring my messages, ignoring my phone calls, walking around me for days on end without saying a word to me scares me, because then I'm scared of losing you. And so by being scared of losing you, I just might just do what you want me to do. Not because I want to, but because of your behavior towards me, I'm scared of losing you. So I'm going to do what you want me to do. Controlling and coercive behavior. So as we go through the initial session, now the client has been accepted on the program because they've acknowledged those two things. Yes, my behavior is abusive based on what we just spoken about in initial assessment. The second thing is, yes, I'm willing to work on it. I have had a couple of clients that say, yeah, okay, I can see my behavior may be abusive, but I'm going to think about whether I want to do something about it right now. And my answer is always, I am here and we're here if you're ready, when you're ready to work on your behavior. Very important, when you are ready to work on it. Because sessions that go on for, we're talking about 15 one-to-one sessions and 10 group sessions. Imagine going through that where the person is deliberately not saying anything. They're just saying what you want to hear because they want to get back into the family home. They want to go to the court and say, oh, here's my report written by Nathaniel. Yes, I'm okay to go back home now. So it doesn't work that way. The client has to be ready to work on it. So what is the step-by-step way in which we're working therapeutically to change behavior? The first one we look at is your abusive behavior. Your abusive behavior. Let's look at that. So how do I identify with a client what their abusive behavior is? The first sessions is we go through the last incident. In your last incident, what occurred? And in that last incident, it could be, well, I can't remember what happened, or I can't remember what was said, but I got angry and I smashed a laptop. Or I got angry, I smashed the phone. Or I got angry, I put my hand across her mouth and told her to shut up. Or I put my hand across her throat because she just kept going on. Or I got angry and I just punched her, or I slapped her and I kicked her. It goes along those lines. And what we try and look at is within that incident, my job is to piece together every snapshot of that incident, every frame of that incident. To try and show, you know what I'm talking about, the mirror? To try and now put the mirror to my client for them to understand that incident. Because the incident initially in their mind is something happened, I can't remember what she said, I lost it, and I reacted. I reacted. If you react, right, it means you're reacting to something. So even in that situation, it is stated as I'm reacting to her behavior. So the understanding there is, if she didn't do that, or she didn't say that, I wouldn't have done this back. So that's another way of deflecting responsibility, right? That is what we address within that session. Understand the incident. And within understanding that incident, the client then is becoming more aware of how things work. How do things work? It's very interesting to me that in sessions when people are recollecting what happened, I can't remember what she said. I can't even remember what the argument was about. Because what is most important is not what was said. What is the most important in that situation is what I felt. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of this. Yes, Nick, slowing down the pace of the incident. So what I do in sessions, I got this thing. I'm going to give you a little trick that I use all the time. And this is something that exclusively it's mine, right? So we've all got remote controls at home, right? And I've got this thing where I go to my client. I said, now imagine you've got a remote control in your hand. Yeah? So this remote control is in your hand currently. And what we're going to do is we're going to press pause and play slowly, next frame, next frame, next frame. And my job is to break it down exactly what was going on in that incident, but also what was going on for you. Layers after layers after layers, before even the behavior came about. Before the behavior came about. So one of the things we'll look at is the abusive behavior. What happened? Well, I came home and she said this or she said something, I don't remember, and I had to shut her up. So let's rewind. The incident was, you can't recall. What did she say? I can't remember what she said exactly. But I reacted to it. How did it make you feel? So we go through vulnerable feelings. We go through understanding the feeling aspect of it. I felt she wasn't listening to me. I felt she was disrespecting me. I told her to stop talking and she wouldn't stop talking. And we were having an argument and she just kept saying these things. What things? I don't know, just things. And I didn't feel I could say anything back. I didn't know what to say back. Let's pause. In that situation, you didn't know what to say back. She's saying things. You felt you didn't have any comebacks. You felt you were, as I mentioned last week, losing the battle, losing the argument, losing the conversation. And in that situation, stop talking, shut up in it, or whatever it may be. In that situation, what is most important to you is to shut that person up. Why? Because what they were saying activated, if you recall from last week, activated something within yourself that was pre-existed before this incident. Pre-existed possibly before meeting this partner of yours. It was activated. Not by what she said, but your feelings about what was said. So now you're feeling disrespected. You feeling that I'm losing this, I'm worthless. You may claim that she triggered me. She didn't trigger you. You were triggered. Not by her. But this situation, that feeling, automatically connected to the feeling that you've been trying to run away from or hide from. That is why I always say it's not the survivor's fault for what is being done to them. I 100% stand behind that statement. Always, absolutely. Because I, as an autonomous being, I'm in charge. I am responsible for everything I say and do. And if you annoy me, if you insult me, if you irritate me, if you tell me you don't love me and it triggers those vulnerable feelings that I have within me, I have a choice on how I react. I have a choice on how I respond to that. And everybody else have the same autonomous right, as I do, as you do. So if I do become abusive, it is my decision to do so. So within this situation, we are exploring the incident, exploring how they feel from an action. They can't even remember what was said. All they remember, if you guys think about it for a moment, right? I can't recall sometimes what was said in the past, but I can always remember the way I felt. You know, I'm thinking positive thoughts right now. I'm thinking beautiful thoughts right now. And I'm like, what did she say? I can't recall the exact words, but I know the feeling. And as beautiful and as positive as that is, negatively as well, it comes through it. The feeling. All right? Vulnerable feelings is the gateway to understanding what is going on for you. So, initial assessment we accept on the program. First session, we're looking at abusive behaviors. We're looking at the last incident or a specific incident that is very clear to you and you can recollect. And then we slow it down, remote control, pause, and just play frame by frame to understand the incident, the behavior, the thoughts, the feelings, and the reaction, the action on your part. And then from there, our client is now understanding a little bit more their behavior, is understanding, and maybe for the first time, is seeing that incident with fresh eyes for the first time. Because prior to this, they've lived it from their perspective. Whatever the partner stated, they've disregarded it or dismissed it. So this may be the first time that this person is actually seeing this incident from a different view. It's the first time this person is actually seeing this situation with fresh eyes. And so maybe my wife is not going mad. Maybe she's not doing this deliberately. Maybe she's not crazy. Maybe she's not like all women, just you know how they are. Because this man is sitting across from me. He doesn't know me or my wife and is basically telling me that my behavior is abusive. He's telling me that this is how my behavior is showing itself and it could be affecting other people. And very importantly, it's showing me without judgment. He's not sitting there calling me a wife beater, waste man, bastard. He's sitting there trying to understand and peel the layers of my behavior to help me change my behavior. And in some sessions, my clients have stated to me, did my wife call you because you're saying exactly what she's been saying? That's what she says. How do you know? Because they, not always, some of them are not fully aware of their effects of their behavior. They've normalized that behavior themselves as a show of love, or this is how we act. This is how you react to something. If you annoy me or anger me, what do you expect? I'm going to give as good as I get, and then some. So it's about changing that narrative and changing the way our perpetrators look and acknowledge that behavior. And from there, we can start looking on what is triggered for you for that reaction. What is triggered for you? How do you see things? Now, one of the things that may strike you guys is, I know it struck me many years ago, is that people don't always see things the way you see it, right? It's like this. It's a new book. I haven't read it yet. I'm about to read it in this period. The color of this, for me, it's orange, right? It's indisputable. This is orange. Yeah? Now, another person may not see it the exact same way as I see it. You may like, yeah, but Nathaniel, there's something that is indisputable. There's some things that it's not about perspective. Black is black, white is white, right? Okay. Let me explain from my point of view how there's no such thing as black or white in therapy. Peach. Okay, there you go. You got peach over there, right? I've got. Now, for me, it's orange. Now, the reason why there's no black, white, orange, or peach from that therapeutic point of view is, in that moment, is why do you see it as peach? Because you're seeing it through your own lens. And your own lens are exclusive to you. Your own lens are unique to you. Now, you can see right here, right? But you can't see what I'm seeing. I'm seeing myself, but I'm also seeing what's behind the camera. And my lens are dictated by my culture, religion, background, gender, profession, family makeup, sexuality, so many factors, age, whether I'm a father, whether I'm single, my lens is dictated by all those factors put together. The way I was raised, the environment I was raised in. So when someone is looking at a situation, they're looking at it from their lens. How can you not acknowledge you've been abusive? Because maybe we don't want to acknowledge that we've been abusive. Maybe he doesn't want to see himself as that bastard, as that waste man. So what we do then is we start going into exploring and showing this person a different view, a different outcome. We start going into showing you a mirror to your behavior and saying, okay, although you may have seen this as a natural reaction to provocation, let's explore what your interpretation of natural is. Where has that come from? And then we start exploring the history, culture, upbringing, background, all those other factors. And then the client starts expressing how they see things. She doesn't listen. My interpretation of that is she's not doing what you want her to do. And that is upsetting to you because the way you interpret that is she's disrespecting me, she doesn't value me. And your interpretation of being a man is someone that should be respected. A man is someone that is woman should listen to what he's saying. A man is someone that can demand things people should be fearful of. So if that's your interpretation of what a real man is, you don't see anything wrong with your behavior because it's consistent with the way you see yourself. So now it's about changing that narrative. Now it's about introducing something else to your view, to your lens. And why do you see it that way? Because that's how my pops was. That's how real men was. Okay, describe your dad to me. My dad does this, my dad does that, and this how you know. But they've been married for 25 years though. Okay. As I've mentioned in the last 2 sessions talking about this, that background, your perception determines your experience. You've perceived that as love. You've perceived that as manly behavior. Your experience now is, this is what a man is, This is how you show love, and it is acceptable. And it's about changing that and looking at the effects of that behavior on others. And breakthrough usually happens for me when you start looking at the vulnerable feelings, the history, and somebody that would say, oh, I'm not like my parents. I'm not like my mom. I'm not like my dad. And you start going through the history, they start describing their father or their mother's behavior. And they start looking at how the similarities between that behavior that they unconsciously have recreated. And then we start looking at healing. Very importantly, healing that person that is the bastard, society dictates is the waste man, all of that. Healing that person from that trauma or that experience that they've stuffed it within there and they don't want to open that door. And whatever happens in life that triggers that opens it up, they'll do anything to shove it back in because they don't want to deal with that situation. So my job is to say, this is an open space, and this space is okay for you to let it out, and we can start working on it. We can start healing. We can stop blaming you for what happened because you didn't deserve it. It wasn't your fault. It's not your fault. How did it feel when they behaved this way to you? It hurt me. It scared me. I was nervous. I didn't feel loved. Those experiences, how do you think it makes your wife or your children feel when you exhibit the same behavior? Imagine the young you that experienced that is now your children that are experiencing that from you. And in that moment, the reality sinks in. The connection is made. And we can start looking at ways in which we can heal and also bringing in new skills on how to respond rather than react. This is a reaction. Response is taking a moment and then putting across. That is responding. So it's changing the narrative from react to respond. Deflect, rather than deflecting, consider it, think about it, explore it. Those are the things that we look at. And at the end of it, we introduce skills, empathy, assertive behavior, new communication skills, in order for these clients of ours to start changing their behavior. So I've come to the end of today's session. I hope you found something useful or beneficial within it. I hope that if you do have someone in your life that's going through something like I've spoken about in the last 3 sessions, I hope you can direct them to seek help. I hope you can be that strength for them. I hope you can be that comfort and that love for them. If you do know someone that's exhibiting the perpetrator behavior, or if you are that person, I want you to, in your own way, put a mirror to them. Direct them to the website, talkingtherapyclinic.co.uk. Help them to seek help for themselves. Guide them, support them to seek that. Because if we throw everyone away, there'll be nobody left. So my job is not to just work with perpetrators. My job is to help that person heal, because when they heal and they change their behavior, their wife, their children benefit from the work that I do and the work that my company does. So look after yourselves, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it as always. And next week, we'll be touching on a new topic. Take care.